Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mayor Malfarra, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the Electrical Association of Philadelphia. This afternoon, I am joined by my colleague Matt Dybert, as well as our presenters, Rob McGuiness, Sales Supervisor with Lutron, and Bryan Kelly, Residential Sales Manager with Synergy Electrical Sales. Before we get started, please note that because we are recording today's session, your cameras and mics have been both turned off. You are welcomed and encouraged to ask questions using the chat feature. Your questions would be answered toward the end of the presentation. I would like to thank Billows Electric Supply Company for sponsoring today's virtual trade talk featuring Lutron. It is now my pleasure to welcome our speakers. Rob McGuiness has been with Lutron for 6.5 years. He started his career on the retail side of the business and has now been working on the electrical distribution side for over 2 years. Bryan Kelly of Synergy Electrical Sales has been representing Lutron for the last 25 plus years. Rob and Bryan, welcome today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt and Mayor, for having us. I would encourage everyone for the next couple of seconds to please take a photo if you'd like our contact information. So that's our email and our mobile numbers. Hopefully we know some of you on the call, but thank you all for joining us on the snowy lunchtime here in southeastern Pennsylvania, where we're calling in from. So I think we could go to the next slide. Today we're talking about what's new in Lutron. Okay, so these are a new family to our new products to the Caseta family. Before I dive into the new products as part of the Caseta family, I do want to just kind of talk about what Caseta is for those of you that might not be familiar with it. Caseta is the fastest growing product family Lutron has ever come out with. Essentially, they are in-wall dimmers, switches, there's plug-in lamp dimmers, you have sensors. It's a whole product family which are wired, and then you could connect to them wirelessly with these. They're called Pico remotes. So you could see on the far left, we have a new Pico Paddle Remote. I will talk about that, but essentially, you could do 9 of those Picos for every dimmer or switch or lamp dimmer. It's a simple button press. So when we say wireless, there are still some things that are going to be wired, i.e. the dimmer or the switch. But then you could turn that single pole into a 3-way without having to run wire, without having to rip out drywall, with a simple button press. In total, it takes about 20 seconds to pair it as a 3-way. If you want to move into a 4-way, it is the exact same pairing process. You go to the main switch or dimmer, press the button for 6 to 10 seconds and do the exact same thing at that Pico. Bryan's going to get into our wall box adapters should you want to put these Picos on the wall. The homeowner or end user has no idea if there's not a back box in there. And this is really the biggest selling point that we see from a contractor's perspective is no running wire, and you're able to set up a multi-location very simply. The Pico remotes have a 10-year battery life. It is a CR2032 lithium battery. They're sold pretty much everywhere. Guaranteed 10-year battery life. That is third-party tested. We have seen it go beyond 10 years, but we at Lutron are guaranteeing a 10-year battery life on those Picos. So if you're nervous that the battery is going to die, that is not the case. It has a long, long life. On top of that, the spec on those Pico remotes to control via the dimmer or switch is 30 feet through concrete, 60 feet through open space. Once again, Lutron is very conservative with our spec. We have seen it go beyond, but that is what we are telling you is on the specification sheet. So 30 feet through concrete, 60 feet through open space. These work really, really well in open space as well. But enough about the old, let's talk about the new. So that is the Caseta brand. We now have some new products, part of the Caseta family. Before getting into that, I will tell you some of the feedback we received from the original Caseta. Some people didn't like the look of it. They thought it was a bit too smart looking in a sense. They didn't like the fact that it didn't have a preset. So if you had a single pole Caseta dimmer, there was not a little favorite button. And with the success of our Sonata dimmer, which had a little glow, a lot of people were asking for a little bit of a glow to show where the light level was at all times on that dimmer specifically. So you think about your bathroom, it's nice to be able to adjust the lights to a nice dim level in your restrooms should you need to use them in the middle of the night, etc., whatever the case may be. So we took all that feedback, and then we came out with these new Diva Smart lines. So we now have a Diva Smart dimmer, a Claro Smart switch, a Claro Smart accessory switch, which is wired, and a brand new Pico Paddle Remote. So what's really nice about the new Diva Smart line is it has a traveler wire. So in the past with Caseta, it was simply 2 wires. If you had a existing 3-way setup, you essentially had to tie off the wires in that 3-way, render it useless, and then pair it with a Pico remote using a wall box adapter to put into that back box. Now, if you have an existing Decora style switch, you can pair it with the traveler wire. It's a basic 3-way setup. The wiring is the same as you would do any basic 3-way setup. Or you could still use a Pico, obviously still an option. There's a third option now. You could now use a Claro Smart accessory switch for multi-location beyond just a 3-way. So I will preface this by saying the traveler wire with the Diva Smart dimmer is only if you have an existing 3-way. It's not going to do anything beyond a 3-way. If you want a 4-way or a 5-way, you need to resort to either Claro Smart accessory switch, which is wired, or multiple Picos, as you would with the old Caseta. The Claro Smart switch obviously matches the Diva Smart aesthetic. I will say the reason why it's not called Diva Smart switch is because the name Diva is a patented Lutron trademark term, and it is referencing a dimmer. So because this doesn't do dimming, it's just on and off, we actually slapped ourselves on the wrist here. We had to name it Claro Smart Switch. So if there's any confusion, they are part of the same product family. And then the hub ties everything together. So when you have a smart hub, you get all the access through your phone, all the integrated partners like Alexa, Google Assistant, Apple HomeKit, Sonos, Ring. I can go on and on. But what's really nice is you now have scheduling that you can do simply through your phone. It knows your location, so it will automatically adjust with daylight savings. So you could have your exterior lights come on at sunset, turn off at sunrise. There's a feature called geofencing where it will track your location. So you're coming home late at night, you or a loved one. You could have your exterior lights automatically turn on so you never come home to a dimly lit home. This is just touching the surface of the beauty of the hub, but control your lights from anywhere in the world. I won't get too detailed into that. Obviously, you have my contact info if you want to talk further. I'm more than happy to talk to you. I'm a nerd when it comes to Caseta. So let's move forward to the next slide. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is the new Diva Smart dimmer. It does have a soft glow underneath where the slider is to show you where that light level is. If you pair this with a Pico remote or a Pico paddle, the light level will adjust regardless of where the slider is to show where that light level on the dimmer is. So if it's at the slider's at the bottom and you have a Pico remote paired and you press up to adjust the light level up, obviously the slider's not going to adjust up because it's not magic, but the light level will adjust. So this is using Lutron's patented LED Plus technology. As of right now, this Diva Smart dimmer is only available with the 150 watt LED, 600 watt incandescent halogen. So if you have an electronic low voltage load or anything above 150 watts LED, you would still need to use the old aesthetic of Caseta, but we do have that available. Any load type except for 0 to 10 volt. And if you have 0 to 10 volt, we can essentially make it work as well with the Caseta family. This is very nice. We have a low and high-end trim setting on this, so you can adjust your low-end trim. If you ever have issues with your lights flickering, there is an adjustment that will reduce that flicker. On the other end, if your lights are too bright when the dimmer is at its lowest setting, you can adjust it. Basically, think a dimmer within a dimmer. And then a high-end trim, so if your lights are too bright on the high end, or if you just want immediate energy savings, you can actually adjust that high end through the app with this new Diva Smart Dimmer. Obviously, you see the physical slider, so that is what's a lot of people have asked for, a nice preset. Both the the new Diva Smart Dimmer and the old Caseta dimmer do not require neutral wire. They are polarity free, so essentially it's almost nearly impossible to screw up the wiring. And then it's available in single pole. If you want to do a three-way, you can use a existing three-way switch, as I mentioned, the Pico or the wired accessory switch, and then multi-location, the Pico or the Claro accessory switch. Let's move on to the next slide here. Similarly, the new Claro Smart Switch, this is rated for 5 amp or 6 amp. So it'll handle your light loads, but also your fan loads. This does require neutral wire. If you have a switching load that where you don't have a neutral connection, we do have a model number for that as part of the Caseta family. It's a dual voltage model number, and it does not require neutral wire. However, it's not available in the Say aesthetic. And much like the Diva Smart, there are multiple options. If you want to do single pole or multi-location, we can handle anything up to a 10-way, actually, if you're using Picos. So let's move on to the next slide, please. This is brand spanking new, the Pico Paddle Remote. So we launched the Diva Smart line in October of 2021 to great success. Our sales have done really well, but the one piece that was missing at the meeting I was present, I said we need something that matches, because if you have beyond a single pole, now you have things that aren't going to match within the homeowner's home, and not many people like that. So now we have a matching Pico Paddle Remote, and you can see a nice stock image there. Looks like a dimmer, or it looks like a Claro Smart switch, but that's actually the Pico Paddle Remote. So that's what it looks like inside of that back box. You add a wall box adapter, which Bryan is going to show in just a few minutes, and the homeowner end user has no idea that there's not a back box. So the way this works, it's one model number for both the Diva Smart Dimmer or the Claro Smart Switch, which, as those of you on the call probably know, is unlike Lutron. We have over 2,000 different model numbers for Picos. This is one model number. As of right now, it's just available in white. It has a guaranteed 10-year battery life. If you tap it once, it will go to that preset level that you have on the slider Diva Smart Dimmer. If you tap it twice, it goes full on. As mentioned, you could do up to a 10-way, so up to 9 Picos for every dimmer or switch. And as also mentioned, it's guaranteed to work 30 feet through concrete, 60 feet through open space. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So this is a quick video. Hopefully you all get to see it in action, and then we'll show you a live demo in a little bit.
Lutron's most popular dimmer is now smart. The new Diva Smart Dimmer has all the features you love about the original Diva Dimmer, with the added benefit of smart functionality. You also get more flexibility. Now you can save time and material by adding a second switch almost anywhere without cutting holes or pulling wire. You don't even need a back box. Quickly pair the wireless remote to the Diva Smart Dimmer and mount the remote to the wall to add a second point of control. It'll look and work just like an additional switch. The Diva Smart Dimmer is the perfect entry into the ever-growing demand for smart lighting control. Learn more at casetawireless.com.
Okay. So moving on outside of Caseta, but these are just some nice images as to what you could see. The bottom left is a Diva Smart Dimmer next to the Claro Smart Switch. You can see bottom right that Pico Paddle Remote controlling. So I will say that video, it's about 9 months old, and we didn't have the Pico Paddle Remote yet. So you could see what it looks like when you have the old Pico and you're pairing it with the new Diva Smart Dimmer. But these are some nice images of what it could look like potentially in an end user's home. Let's move on to the next slide. We got brand new products, which are not even in, they're not at Villos or any big box. These are shipping next week. These are Maestro Dual Controls. So you can see there, bottom left, we have a stacked, it's an LED dimmer. and a switch, and then the right is an LED dimmer and a timer. So the dimmer is 100 watts of LED control and then 2 amps for the switch. No neutral wires required. It's very important. Some of these older homes did not have that neutral connection. It does have the easy low end trim as we suggested, so you could adjust it for better compatibility with your LED lamps. But this is going to be a huge seller for us. So often I'm asked out in the field when we're coming out with something that's stacked, because a lot of incandescent controls, you were able to do control 2 zones from a single gang box. And then once LED came out, that technology was near impossible to be able to control multiple zones through a single gang box. So now we have options, whether it's for 2 lighting zones or you need it in your bathroom for a lighting and a timer. Okay. Just some photos of what they look like. Now we're going to get into a live demo. We actually have a Diva Smart Dimmer here, and Bryan's going to take it over from here. So I'm going to move over the camera, lift it up so you can see.
Great. Thank you, Rob. As our video previously showed, pairing up a new Pico, a Diva Pico, we refer to as a paddle, with a Diva RF device. This is the same process we've used now for 7 or 8 years with the traditional caseta. So if you've not done this before, what we do here is we hold in the bottom button of the dimmer itself. This puts the dimmer into pairing mode. We then push the bottom button, hold the bottom end of this device, the paddle. We hold this for about 10 seconds. And then we have a visual indication that these 2 devices are paired up. So once this goes through this pairing motion, you now have the full ability to turn your lights off and on from this remote. When you turn the light on from here, it is going to go to the preset level on the dimmer. So if you were to walk over to the dimmer itself, turn it off and on, you also have the ability to do that from a 3rd location. Now I'll show you, this is a battery operated device, but if you wanted to apply this to a wall plate, there is actually a wall plate adapter. This device slides into it. You now have screw openings that you can screw right to the wall. Your faceplate gets put on top of it. And now you can put that in the same space in a 3-way location.
So simple enough. The live demo is really just to show that multi-location 3-way, how to set up a 3-way. Obviously, it's just 2 wires. And then if you have an existing 3-way, you'd use that traveler wire, but very simple 2-wire polarity-free installation. Just make sure the ground is connected, and then you don't have to run a wire to get to that secondary location. As mentioned, you could do up to 9 locations. So if we don't have any questions, I will leave it at that and say thank you very much for having us and letting us join this call. Once again, I'm Rob McGuiness of Lutron.
And I'm Bryan Keller with Synergy Electrical Sales.
Okay, any questions? I don't see any in the chat. Well, thank you, Rob and Bryan, for a great presentation. We will be following up with everyone via email with our speakers' contact information. The recording will be posted on EAP TV at www.eap.org/TV early next week. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Have a great day and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.